Missing one. Everything all right? Yeah. All right. All right, we've got 13. Let's start with. I'd like to welcome everyone this morning. Visitors. Yes. Executive Council. And we'll start with invocation. I'm going to call upon Senator Stewart to give us this morning's invocation.
Your Honor, Mr. Speaker, Secretary, members, and guests, and all the honor hits. Father, Lord, in the name of Jesus, Lord, we come before you, Lord, today, Lord. Lord, we ask you, Lord, for the ability, Lord Jesus, to make wise decisions for the Crow people, Lord. Lord, we come before you, Lord Jesus, Lord, with these agreements, Lord, that the best interests of the Crow people are at heart, Lord Jesus, Lord. Lord Jesus, Lord, we look to you, Lord, and we praise you, Lord, and all our respective districts here, Lord, are assembled, Lord, today, Lord. We're all here in one mind, one accord, Lord Jesus, and that's for your people. Lord, we praise you, Lord, and ask you, Lord, to watch over us and protect us, Lord, and be with us today, Lord Jesus. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. All right, so roll call. Senator Turley.
Fellow Speaker, Turley against backlash.
Pretty big backlash.
Stewart Blacklash. Clive Portorino.
Not afraid, Oshkosh Chair.
Lord of Lodgegrass.
Alden Bighorn. Not afraid, Bighorn. Bighorn. Deep Green, Elm Creek.
Real Bird Mighty Few.
Old Cross was it.
Shane Reno. We have a quorum. At this time, we're still in the reporting section of our agenda, and we had allowed Cloud Peak to come and give a portion of the reporting on behalf of the executive. So at this time, we're on live stream, and we want to get this out to the people, and we'll have the Sergeant in Arms set up the screen, and then we'll go directly into Cloud Peak's presentation as part of the reporting from about the executive branch to the legislature. After that, we'll call judicial in for their reporting as well, but that'll be at the tail end of this. So Sergeant at Arms, once we get going, it looks like a winding down on their presentation, we can call judicial to come over as well. All right, so let's get set up.
You have what you need over here.
All right, so giving the Cloud Peak presentation is going to be Todd Myers. And we've got Bill Watt here as well from the Executive Review Council. All right, so floor now recognizes Todd Myers with Cloud Peak. So the presentation on. Okay, go ahead. Floor recognizes Bill Watt, Executive Legal Counsel.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of the executive branch and the entire Crow tribe, just like to welcome and reintroduce everyone, those viewers watching, to Mr. Todd Myers, Senior Vice President for Business Development at Cloud Peak Energy, who will provide a presentation on the big metal coal agreements for the development of coal, tribal coal in the southeast corner of the Crow Reservation. We very much appreciate the legislature's hospitality this morning and the ability to provide this presentation to the membership as well as the legislature. With that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Myers.
Okay, floor now recognizes Todd Myers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to thank you, Mr. Speaker, and this body, and the Crow Tribe for inviting me to speak today. It's obviously an honor and a privilege to be here. Thanks for the opportunity to talk about the proposed transaction that we're calling Big Metal. The agenda today, I'll just go quickly, as Cloud Peak always does, a quick safety share, a little bit about who Cloud Peak Energy is, what we've been doing most recently, how Big Metal fits into our company, why we're interested in it, a little bit of discussion about the agreement itself and the benefits to the tribe, the agreement that we worked out with the executive branch, and I'll discuss a little bit the potential timing to get the operation going. To begin, safety is a core value for Cloud Peak Energy. We're in mining, which can be a dangerous occupation. We think we're one of the safest miners, not just in the country, but in the world. And so we start every meeting with some discussion on safety, just to make sure we're aware of safety and we're always focused on it. This is one I used yesterday, and I'll just use it again. Probably the most dangerous thing that our employees will do is drive to work, especially with the days getting shorter and more wildlife being on the roads. We just ask everyone to just be that much more cautious when you're driving and pay attention. So a little bit about Cloud Peak Energy. We are a coal company. We're the only coal company who is solely producing in the Powder River Basin in Wyoming and Montana. We have 3 coal mines. The Spring Creek mine in Montana, which produces about 19 million tons per year. The Cordero Rojo mine just south of Gillette, Wyoming, which produces about 40 million tons per year. And the southernmost mine in the southern Powder River Basin, the Antelope coal mine, which is not too far from Douglas, Wyoming, produces about 37 million tons per year. Just for comparison, you may hear me reference Westmoreland now and again because the tribe's familiar with them, and I used to work for Westmoreland. That company might produce the whole company might produce 20 to 25 million tons per year, just to give you some comparison to scale. Cloud Peak used to be part of Rio Tinto, a very large international mining company. In November of 2009, Rio Tinto sold us on the New York Stock Exchange. So we're now a publicly traded company, meaning anybody here could go out and buy Cloud Peak shares on the New York Stock Exchange and own some of the company. We're traded under the symbol CLD, so you could always go out there and just see how we're doing and go on to our website. And because we're publicly traded, we're required to keep quite a bit of information out there about the company, and you can get access to that. It also means we have to be somewhat careful about what we say, because any information we give has to be available at the same time to all investors. I think the presentation today is good for the tribe. There is some additional information we provided that would be available not on this stream. Again, Cloud Peak is one of the largest U.S. coal companies. In 2011, we produced roughly 90 to 95 million tons of coal, making us the fourth largest U.S. coal company by tons produced. 2012 was a bit of a tough year because of low demand from the warm winter last year and high availability of natural gas, which really affected the eastern coal companies. So we actually might be the third largest coal company this year. So it'll vary from year to year. Throughout the presentation today, you'll hear me talk about Cloud Peak. The deal that we're proposing with the Crow Tribe would be with a new company called Big Metal Coal LLC that will be a wholly owned subsidiary of Cloud Peak Energy. And this is the way it's generally done in the coal industry. Each of our mines is set up under a different company. Spring Creek Mine, for example, is set up as Spring Creek Coal LLC. And even Westmoreland sets up the Absaloka Mine as Westmoreland Resources, Inc. So it's just the way we do it. And I'm going to say Cloud Peak today for just convenience. When the lawyers look at it, the agreements will say Big Metal, just so there's no confusion. So we do have some pretty core values. Safety, as I said, is obviously one. Community is another. And we spend a lot of time focused on communities, and we're blessed to have the resources to follow up our values with actions. Some prior companies I worked for might have had some of the same instincts, but may not have had the resources. Cloud Peak does a lot. We just being specific to Montana and the reservation, we've done some work with the Boy Scout programs at Crow Agency, the Billings Education Foundation, Thunder Child Treatment Center, etc. We were a proud sponsor of Crow Fair this year, and we hope to continue that going forward. And the photograph here is a picture of...
If I could interrupt right there.
Yes.
Mr. Myers. You said you're a proud sponsor of Crow Fair. How much did you contribute for Crow Fair this year?
Oh, I apologize, I don't remember the number off the top of my head. Sorry, I don't remember the number.
Okay. Can you get us that information? Show us how much you contributed for Crow Fair.
Sure,
Okay.
sure.
Because all we're looking for is consistency. So if this is something that you're going to do annually, this is something we can tell the future fair managers that Cloud Peak usually gives this much, so they can add it to their budget.
Oh, understood. And the fellow here on the screen, his name is Bob Green.
Okay.
He's our general manager of sustainable development and community relations. He's the fellow that we got to make the donation, so he would have been able to answer that question immediately. I think I know the number, but I'm just afraid to say it because I'm just not 100% certain I'm right. So he's the fellow, and he is in touch with the organizers of Crow Fair. They have his number, and I'd be surprised if they didn't call him next year if he didn't get in touch with them first. But we do plan to do that, and we are planning to look for additional opportunities to become more involved on the reservation through Bob's budget, and he's fully counting on that. So as soon as we get an agreement approved and we're live with an agreed upon deal with the tribe, then he knows he's going to start stepping up and trying to look for additional opportunities.
Great, thank you.
Sure. So again, this is Bob Green, and he works out of our Gillette office. Here's a photo of him in May of 2011 during the floods. He was able to mobilize quite a few deliveries of emergency supplies to Crow Agency. We also have a very strong environmental focus. For those who may not be aware, in the coal industry, we're regulated under the Surface Mine Reclamation Act. Probably following the name of that bill, but SMACRA. And we are required by law to put the land back to its approximate original condition when we're done mining. So obviously we comply with the law and we do that, but we do take pride in trying to take extra steps and do an even better job. And we've won several awards for doing that.
Excuse me, when you're doing land
Sorry.
reclamation,
We're in session right now. The only people that are allowed to speak while we're in session are the elected officials. We're not in committee meeting. When we're in committee meeting, then the general public can speak.
okay.
So you cannot speak until recognized by the Speaker of the House. So I apologize for that, Mr. Myers. Go ahead and proceed on.
We'll look for an opportunity to answer questions at some point.
I believe that'll be up to the senators at the conclusion. We are in session, so the only way we have House rules, and the House rule was introduced by, at that time, was Senator Oliver Half. And it's a resolution of the co-tribal legislature to require written authorization from the executive branch chairman for any non-elected executive branch employee or official to make decisions or express opinions concerning tribal legislation on behalf of the executive branch. So we're just following protocol, which was introduced at that time, Senator Oliver Half, who's not here anymore, but he's now an employee of the executive branch. So we're just following protocols, all we're doing. And, we're following Robert's Rules of Order. So for the people in the back, you can't speak until recognized by the floor. We appreciate that. Okay, go ahead and proceed.
Thank you. So I'll show you now a picture of how the Big Metal transaction would fit into Cloud Peak's operations and why we're interested. What I'm showing here in green, so this is the state line, Montana, Wyoming. This is the reservation boundary, the reservation to the west. Our Spring Creek mine is here in light green. Those are current operations. In dark green would be federal coal that we could lease for the next few decades of life at the mine. And all through this area is federal coal. Typically in the Powder River Basin, the federal government owns the coal, and there is an auction process for coal companies to acquire rights to mine the coal through leases. It's called the lease by application process, or LBA. And there's lots of coal here for Spring Creek to continue mining to the south if we wanted. We also own half of the Decker mine. This is just showing West Decker. East Decker would be over here. We own half, but we are not the operator. It's operated by an Australian company called Amber Energy that just bought out Level 3, which was the owner. So we're a 50% non-operating owner of that mine. And to the south, in Wyoming, we just acquired in June the Youngs Creek project from Chevron and Consol Energy. Chevron's a very large Pittsburgh-based coal company, primarily focused in the east. This project has a permit. Chevron and Consol own the coal here, which is different because it's not federal. And we have a lease with them, and I'll talk about the lease conditions there. There's a proposed rail spur here. It's not built yet. But this mine is permitted and could be up and running by 2015. And we acquired not quite about 490 million tons of coal through lease there. So about 2 years ago, we started negotiating with the Crow tribe.
Mr. Myers?
Yes, sir.
We've got a question on the floor by Senator, Secretary of the House, Senator Knut Oldcrow.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the body. Mr. Myers, my question is in regards to the reservation line. The boundary there that you have there, is that the HD91 survey line or the 107 line?
You know, every time we make the maps, we double check that. And I believe it's the current modified line, but I'm not 100% sure. It's not a detailed map, so that you can look at that as being approximate. I think it is the new line actually, because you can see there's room here.
Okay,
I
so
think
it
it's
is
the new
the
line.
107.
Yeah, I think it's the 107.
Okay, I just want that for clarification.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure. So as I was saying, 2 years ago we started discussions with the Crow tribe for coal over here in what we call the Big Metal area. Each of these three areas are drainages. And we explained the situation at the time that we have a business plan that could take Spring Creek Mine forward for the next 30, 40, or 50 years by just continuing to lease federal coal, moving to the south. And so we had to say, well, what would make us want to come over and lease coal on the Crow Reservation? From this reserve to Spring Creek Mine is about where we would load the coal on rail. It's about 13 miles. From here to Squirrel Creek drainage, maybe about 6 miles. One of the benefits that Cloud Peak brings is we don't have to build a new mine, new rail, and new loadout facilities. The idea is we would have haul roads to go over to the existing loadout at Spring Creek. So that would cost us less capital, but it also means the mine could come on, the mining on the reservation could occur sooner. So we saw that as a win-win for both us and for the tribe. So the negotiation was mostly around what would make us, at a bare minimum, indifferent to mining crow coal versus mining federal coal. And there are lots of pluses and minuses to each. So when I go into discussing the agreement, the idea that we came up with, that we agreed to, is a sliding scale royalty that gives us a better royalty rate from our perspective than the federal government, but also gives the tribe upside as the prices rise, or if we export the coal, the tribe would do even better than the federal. And Cloud Peak felt that that would be enough to make crow coal more attractive than going back to the federal government and getting more coal leases at Spring Creek. So that's the basic setup for the negotiation and what's in it for the Crow tribe and what's in it for Cloud Peak. This map goes back again to the June 2012 acquisition of Youngs Creek. We acquired not just coal in Youngs Creek, but we acquired surface from Consol Energy and Chevron. In Wyoming, we acquired control by surface leases, but everything north of the line and onto the reservation is land that has been held by Consol Energy for decades. They called it CX Ranch. So between Youngs Creek and CX Ranch, we acquired almost 40,000 acres. And this was very important to us for many reasons. Number one, if we did keep acquiring federal coal coming south, we now own the surface over that coal. And so that's a huge benefit. As far as Big Metal goes, if we want these haul roads to take coal to the Spring Creek loadout, if Consol Energy owned that surface and they were a competitor, they could block us. So it was very important for us to acquire CX Ranch to help with Big Metal so that we could get Crow coal out to market. Without that, Crow coal could pretty well be blocked by all the surface control. So we now own that, and we see that again as a positive thing and a win-win to talk about with the tribe. Sorry, in the wrong way. So that's the setup, and again, Mr. Speaker, if anyone would have any questions prior to moving on to discussing the deal, I'd be happy to answer them. But that's the background and the big picture.
All right, floor recognizes Senator Stewart of the Black Mountain District.
Hello, Mr. Speaker, Secretary, members, and guests. My question goes back, it speaks to the issue on the 40,000 acres that was just recently acquired, and my question on that is what is the average per acre that you paid out for an acquisition on that land?
That number is in our agreement. We will give rights to the tribe to acquire over time lands from CX Ranch on the reservation. I think the number is $2,344 an acre.
2,344?
Yes. With that, that also reflects certain water rights and certain dwellings on CX Ranch. So again, it's also we think a premium for acquiring almost 40,000 acres in one block.
Okay, floor now recognizes Senator Gozad of the Prior District.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the body. My question is on that, the number 3, Cloud Peak Surface Control, and I think that was same question that Senator Stewart was asking. The blue, it's all blue on the reservation side, and that's how many acres again?
So on the reservation is approximately 3,500 acres.
Yeah. So, and that's owned by who?
That's now owned by a new subsidiary of Cloud Peak Energy.
And what is the subsidiary?
I think it's called Arrowhead One LLC.
Arrowhead One.
Right. It's named after a mountain peak in Montana.
Okay. Say that again, Arrowhead?
It's Arrowhead 1, LLC.
And, okay, yesterday, I know that you talked about Senator Backbone expressed his hunting rights, you know, in exercising it actually, according to the treaty. But I thought about this last night on the way home. And then you kept saying, we gotta follow federal regulations, right? What your response to that hunting right?
When there's active mining, yes.
When there's active mining, yeah. But generally, I believe that he's talking about having access and going through it. The egress and the ingress, I believe, is what he's talking about as well, too. And if I'm going hunting myself, I mean, I don't want to have any problems going through there. Otherwise, I would have to exercise my right, you know, to assert and to preserve, I believe, to exercise. That's one of the areas that. But saying this 3,005 acres, now you talk about federal regulations, and this is what the question. Now we have a federal law about the Section 2. Doesn't that make you a Section 2 violator? Having that within the exterior boundaries is a federal law. And then there's another question. I mean, it's simple. You know, the federal law says you can't have that much land on the reservation, and you've already acquired 3,005 acres. So that makes you a Section 2 violator. And I'm probably sure Bill Watt is squirming in his seat right now. But there's that other question. You know, the water right is very important as well too. So what kind of water right is there? See, these are questions. When the executive branch took this to the public, to each district, I didn't hear a lot of the constituency from the respective district ask a lot of questions. They were just tired of listening to the same old, you know? There were some good questions when they came to Pryor. I didn't ask questions, I went to just to observe and to listen, that's all I did. And I hate to say this, but sometimes Bill Watt, he's a little boring when you listen to him, but you give a good presentation. I've talked to him before. I said, make it simple in layman's terms, explain yourself. But coming here to the legislative branch, you know, we ask questions, and questions that are valid. So my question is are you a Section 2 violator? Doesn't that make you a Section 2 violator? That is question. And then my other question is, at the end of when you develop all the coal, that land that you purchase, who is it going back to? The individual lockees, or is it going back into tribal trusts? Well, so those are my questions. Thank you.
Yes, sir. So I'll try to answer all of your questions. I'll start with the high one, which is, are we a Section 2 violator? We think not. We hired some lawyers to look at that question before we bought it. We didn't want to buy it and be in violation of the law. There are lots of facts and legal circumstances that we believe we're not a violator, but we think that whole question isn't the important question. The question is, we now control this, and we're providing opportunities to the tribe to get it back. Whereas if Consol Energy kept owning it, they'd just go on owning it forever. So we're trying to look at this as a positive for the tribe, and even this morning we were still adding some additional things to make it even better for the tribe, so that you'll have rights to get CX ranch lands back. I'll also point out in 2007, I believe, Rio Tinto purchased what's called the Alden properties, which is about 560 acres, and we're including that and giving rights to the tribe to get that back as well. On an ongoing basis, if we need to acquire land to do mining, if we have to purchase the land, and this is going to be up to the individual landowners, whether they want to sell the land or they want to lease the land. So until we go out and talk to people, we don't know what people will want or what we'll end up doing. But if it turns out they want to sell the land, then we'll buy it in the tribe's name and lease it back. So the tribe will own that land, and we'll have control of it for mining under a lease with the tribe. And when we're done mining, the tribe will own that land. If we lease the coal, then when we're done mining, we no longer have a lease. The landowners never stopped owning the land, they still own the land. And when we're done mining, we'll have reclaimed it and put it back to its original condition. Or to the extent we're allowed by federal law, we'll talk to people and say, do you want us to make it more suitable for grazing? And that would be good for us to do, and we'd be happy to do that. So, on the whole, the tribe is going to get land out of this deal one way or another. So I think that's positive. As far as hunting goes, I don't know off the top of my head what Consol Energy allowed or did not allow for hunting on the CX ranch lands on the reservation. I can tell you if that's something the tribe is interested in talking to us about, by all means, we're interested in talking to you and seeing what we can do. But when we're mining, and there are employees out there who will be mostly Crow employees, it's not a smart thing to have gunfire out there, and the Mine Safety Health Administration wouldn't let us have that happen anyway. So that's not something we can change once there's active mining. If you want to drive through the area, again, that's probably something we could talk about. So I don't see much conflict there. And again, I can understand and appreciate the tribe's historical perspective on Section 2. As Cloud Peak, all we could come in and do is buy the land from Consol, which we needed. Made sure that we didn't think a court of law would hold us in violation for doing that, and we're pretty confident that it wouldn't. But at the same time, recognizing the interests of the tribe and what we could do to make this a win-win for the tribe, and we've tried to do that.
Okay, the floor now recognizes Senator Backbone of the Reno District.
Thank you, Speaker, body, guest. My question is, you acquired the Spring Creek mine and the West Decker mine, right?
We've owned them for quite some time.
Okay. In the Big Meadow exploration area, I just wanted to know what kind of, how much is a ton do they get? Spring Creek and West Decker.
Are you talking a sales price for coal?
Yeah. Compared to what the deal you're gonna give us.
So I have to make sure I understand what you're asking. You're not asking what we sell coal for to customers. You're asking what the value of the lease is?
Or the coal, like 18 cents a ton.
If you're going to that question. Yeah, so we benchmarked the agreement with the tribe on what Arch Coal did at Otter Creek, which is the most recent reserve sale. Again, there aren't very many data points in Montana, not very many comparable sales, but Arch paid between 10 and 15 cents for the Otter Creek tracks. So we've negotiated for what we call the primary coal that we would mine the earliest and therefore have the most value. We valued that between 10 and 15 cents, so it's the same. Secondary coal is a little bit less, only because time's a factor there, and we may not get to that for quite a long time. So you can't pay as much money, and again, there's formulas that go behind those numbers, how you get to it. And one of the variables in that formula is how soon you think you might mine it. So we think we were very focused on what the recent comparable numbers would be, so we wouldn't have a discussion like this, and we would be able to say we paid exactly what Arch paid, and it's exactly in line with what the market is.
Thank you.
All right, the floor now recognizes Senator Alden of the Bighorn District.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the body, Cloud Peak, Bill. I got a couple, actually, a question and a comment on the education side of it. I know we all talk about education, and when it comes to deals like this, we try to advocate for, especially funding-wise, especially at college-level funding here. We're always running short. And I see an agreement that, what is it, $50,000 50,000 a year
Yes,
under the current
plus inflation.
plus inflation. I've seen it. So I'd like to see that higher. I know that's one of the biggest things we try to advocate for too, especially with education and some of these deals. And I know I don't sit there as a negotiator, and maybe that's just something I can pass on the bill, but I like to see that doubled actually, and maybe sit at 100,000 a year. And our needs for education, you can't just always advocate, especially funding wise on that end. So that and then the deal here is kind of another little comment. The deal is going to affect my generation. We're going to have to live with what we eventually, if it passes or whatnot. So, have you gone out and tried to present to the younger generation?
Again, until we have an agreement, our negotiations have been with the executive branch and presenting to the legislature. And so, we haven't felt at liberty to go out and have direct contact. If we can get this approved here, then yes, we want to go out and we want to have an open house and invite young people. Maybe we'll do that at Bighorn College if that's appropriate.
I mean, I think that's almost working backwards, where their voice, and eventually if we get the say so from our constituents, they need to be educated on this deal. I mean, that's another issue. I mean, that the students need to be educated on this deal. Then maybe because they're going to have to live with it. That's what I'm saying. So then we get the say so from them. Then we can move ahead on our side. So just another little comment on that, and I'm not looking for answers. So thanks.
Thank you for your comment. I will discuss the scholarship later in the presentation. I'll talk about that in more detail.
Okay, floor now recognizes Senator Nonofre of the Lodgegrass District.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Secretary, members of the body, Executive Branch, Legal Counsel, Bill Watt, Cloud Peak, etc. Good morning, Mr. Myers. The question that I have, I wanted to start it out with a comment with respect to Senator Gozahead's concern about hunting. Mr. Myers, you didn't mention, you did not know what CX Ranch did with regards to hunting on the reservation. Just my comment, Mr. Myers, on the reservation, if a non-Indian puts a no trespassing sign up, or they lock their gates with reference to hunting on fee land on the reservation, personally, how I've handled it is I've taken down the no trespassing sign, I've cut the lock, and I've entered the land to exercise my right to hunt. I've been approached by non-Indians on the reservation. You can't hunt here. My response is usually, make me. They threaten with law enforcement, and I say, call them. I'm gonna hunt no matter what on my reservation. I don't care where it's at. I don't care what anybody says. And that's where I stand as an elected representative for my district. But the next question I have, Mr. Myers, if we could go back to the map and look at the spots in blue. We see we're assuming that's the 107th boundary as established by Congress in the settlement of, what year was that, Mr. Watt, 1997? Was it 1994? When the 107th boundary settlement went through Congress and signed by the President, and of course approved by the Tribal Council at that time under the NOMI administration. Now, the question I have for Cloud Peak in reference to hunting. Currently, we don't have an agreement with Montana as of today's date with reference to treaty hunting off of the Crow Indian Reservation. We believe that we have the right to hunt within the original 38 million acres of our original boundaries. In short, sir, would you allow us, we don't have an agreement yet with Montana to recognize our treaty hunting, but I believe that's coming. The Flathead has exercised that. The Nez Perce tribe has exercised that. Now, the blue spots acquired by your company east of the boundary there, would you allow tribal members to hunt there if we acquired a permit to hunt from the state of Montana? Is my question. Would you allow us to hunt there at current if we acquired a permit from the state of Montana to hunt there? And then at a later date, if we acquire an agreement with the state of Montana to exercise our right to hunt in treaty, would you allow tribal members to hunt east of the line there as long as it's not being mined?
Mr. Manfred, let me just say that until yesterday and today, I have to admit I wasn't focused on hunting as much, but I'm very aware of hunting after today. So we will go back and look at that question. We will look at all the questions related to hunting, and as I said yesterday, our chief operating officer is a big hunter himself, and I know he's very interested in hunting on all those blue areas as well. So I can't give you an answer because I have not been that much aware of hunting as an issue. I will go back and I will put that in front of our company and we will look at that and get back to the tribe. We have no reason to do anything not in the interest of the tribe, so I'm hearing loud and clear that you would like to hunt, both on the blue area on the reservation and off the reservation. So I'll go back and carry that message back and try to come back with an answer very, very soon.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, the floor now recognizes Senator Not Afraid of the Bighorn District.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the body. Todd, in regards to Senator Gozahead's comment, question earlier on a big metal exploration area, you see up there on the map and that, the boundaries. Now, how many years is this going to be tied up? Like the duration of the mine, and is that going to be like 75, 80 years to the future before any tribal member or even the tribe can retain that land, like the landowners, the lottees? How many years is that?
So there are quite a few answers to that question. With respect to exploration, Bill, I'm trying to remember how many years exploration is. Is it 3 years, 5 years?
Sorry.
It's a relatively short amount of time. We would start exploration, hopefully be drilling next year. We have to negotiate access agreements with the landowners, and there's really very little impact for exploration. We're just going to put some core holes down, some holes to make sure we understand where the coal is and what quality it is. So this larger area really goes away at the end of exploration. So it's just where we'll drill, and we'll drill some areas outside of where we're interested because we'll be giving additional information for the tribe, so you know what's within that area. But we certainly don't think we're going to be mining, say, up here. But it's possible we'll put a drill hole there just to get information. That's to be determined yet. So that would be short. With respect to how long the deal is tied up, we would have 5 years to exercise an option. And if we don't, then we're done. And you keep all the money we paid, and we're just completely gone and we have no rights. Other than maybe a right of first refusal if somebody else comes in and we paid some money for that right. But I'll talk about that a little later. Once we're mining, we exercise a lease and we're mining, then we're good so long as we're mining minimum quantities. And we've just recently inserted some opportunities for the tribe to reopen what we're paying after a certain amount of time. And again, I'll go through that in the slides coming up.
Okay, in a layman's term, I just want you to answer me. The boundaries that are in that black line on the reservation. My question was, that's gonna be tied up for 75 years.
Not the black line, no.
Okay, thank you. That's what I wanted to know.
Okay, the floor now recognizes Senator Kyle Bruns of the Reno District.
Thank you, Speaker. Members, investors, and Cloud Peak, Bill. Yeah, this hunting issue been kind of ongoing ever since 1982, when we lost a case in Bighorn River case. And I'm an advocate for our treaty, our right to hunt and fish on the reservation. We never declared, sold the hunting and fishing. And now, sometimes, when on tribal like this, for contract now, because what I'm hearing now is we got laws on fishing, hunting and fishing on the reservation, as well as our Crow tribal laws. Now, this kind of deal, well, that you mentioned about being cut off from that area of hunting and fishing, and not only that, but the water rights, and there's a lot of people that are concerned, especially the old folks, picking berries and roots and plants they use for religious ceremonies. You know, we're pretty well concerned about that. And if we're not allowed in some areas like that, kind of superseding our laws, you know. Our inherent rights, I always say that in court, and went to court several times on behalf of the Crow Nation. Our inherent rights back in 1852 on to 1868 final treaty years. We have a right to hunt and fish on our original reservation. Now, it consisted of 38 million acres. And those rights, I don't know, we're losing a lot of rights here and there. And that concerns me, you know, in the future, our children, grandchildren, and beyond won't be able to do nothing, won't be able to do what we're doing now, instead of going back to buying licensed and all that. It's our land, to me, it's our land, it's our property, it's our right to hunt, to survive with Crow Nation, as well as all other tribes that come within that scope. And, you know, it kind of affects, and I don't think you had in mind what you're getting into on the hunting. Like I said yesterday, most of the people on Crow Nation hunt, even a woman, they go out and hunt, I know that. And, but we have a very serious concern on that hunting and fishing. Some of these senators, I know they're pushing for, you know, our rights to exercise our rights, our inherent rights. That's why I'm asking you this question and asking all that. If that thing supersedes our law, which it shouldn't be, it's our law, it's our land. And all that problems coming up, I don't know how many years it takes before it can be resolved. I hope. Thank you.
Yes, sir. As I said earlier, one thing I've learned yesterday and today is to go back and look at the issue of hunting. So I hear you, I hear this body, and I hear the tribe very loud and very clear. So I understand that. I do want to make clear that we don't want and have no plans to change anything to make it worse. If anything, any change we would make it better. So that's when I said I don't know what CX Ranch Consol Energy had done in the past. I don't know that off the top of my head. If they said yes to hunting, I don't imagine we're going to say no. Then you would continue hunting. No change. If they said no, then the positive thing is that we're going to go back and look at that and see if we could change that so that it's not no anymore. So again, I would say to you, sir, that if anything, there's only Cloud Peak buying this land is we only want to make it better for the tribe. We're not talking about anything to make it worse. The only exception is, once we're mining and we have employees out there with big equipment, we just appreciate people not shooting firearms around them. And we think if your son or brother or father worked out at the mine, you wouldn't want firearms, around the workforce either. In fact, federal law wouldn't let us allow that. But that's only when we're mining. It may be a long time until we mine this area under CX Ranch. And if it's okay to hunt there, I mean, there's no reason that I can see right now that we'd say no to that. So let me go back and look at that. And I'm looking for ways to improve something if you don't already have it. I'm not looking for any reason to do anything worse.
Yeah, I think there's any kind of development like your fire per se, sometimes when we build roads, we use nitro and dynamite in order to evacuate some of the rocks that are in the way. And we just mentioned about the firearms and something like that. Thank you.
All right, the floor now recognizes Senator Rielberg of the Wyola District.
Good afternoon, Speaker, Secretary, members of the body, guests, Bill Watt, and Mr. Myers, right? My question maybe could be answered by Bill but my question is our coal going to be taxed by the state? That's a possibility. And if so, where would that money go? Could it possibly go back to maybe Wyola School or Lodgegrass School, like to where Hardin High School gets their money through, I think it's Decker, maybe Westmont, I'm not sure, but that's my question.
I don't believe, particularly with the water compact having been approved and implemented in the process of implementing that the state will ever tax any of the coal that are on the reservation, coal held in trust for the Crow tribe. The state will not tax it. If for some reason that law should change in the future after all the litigation we did to win that, or for the compact settlement provides that Montana would pay that back to the Crow tribe. So any taxes collected on Crow tribal coal will go to the Crow tribe. As I discussed with your attorney, we're working on the agreement to implement that part of the water compact. So I don't know at this point exactly what the state's position is in terms of how it will all work in the long run, but it's very clear what the parameters are. Right now, we have the sole right to tax the coal. If anything should change on that, the agreement with Montana is the tribe will receive the revenue. So no matter what happens, the coal tax revenue will come to the Crow tribe.
So on that, last question, if we decide to tax our own coal, could that money possibly go to some of our schools? But I know there are state schools, right? Like Wyola, Lodgegrass, maybe Crow here, Plenty Crew, schools like that need a lot of help, extra help. What can we do to help them, I guess?
It will be whatever the tribe decides to do with that tax revenue, which, if all three of these mines are operating at some time, would be pretty substantial, $20, $30, $40 million a year or more. And then it would be up to the tribe to budget where that revenue goes.
Okay, floor now recognizes Senator Stewart of the Black Lodge District.
Oh, Mr. Speaker, members of the body and guests. I wanted to speak to the issue of the, I've got a couple other questions, but just not as far as the hunting is concerned. I believe that the acquired land within the exterior boundaries of the reservation, regardless of getting permission or not, every Crow tribe member has the right to hunt on that property. We do not have to ask for permission until that property is permitted. And the other areas there within the Wyoming, as well as the acquired land outside of the 107th Meridian there on the east side of the reservation boundary, I believe that's I think that's where we're looking at. You know, any areas there that aren't utilized in the permit. In the meantime, I believe the tribe members wanted to be able to hunt those areas. And so with that being said, you know, I want to go back to this issue of the different payments, and I do understand that upon the legislative approval, 2.25 million is going to be given to the tribe upon legislative approval. And I wanted to ask you if you had a problem with us making recommendation and amendment to that, to where we direct that all these initial option payments to the BIA and the legislative 2.25 and the BIA 1.5 million directed to the per capita payment to the whole general council distribution. I wanted to ask you directly, do you have a problem with that? And if not, that's fine, but this is something that I'm hoping Bill Watt will jot down, because I think that's where we're going to go with this. I think I want this money to go directly to the per capita payment to the distribution for the general council. But I just wanted to ask you directly, did you have a problem with that? And if so, can you explain?
Sure, and thank you for asking that. You know, we would never presume to have any say whatsoever in what you do with the money we give you. If you buy a car from me and give me $1,000, what do you care what I do with $1,000? I mean, I may care, but it's none of my business. It's the tribal business. And so please don't ever ask Cloud Peak, you know, what the tribe should do with the money we give you. That's your money. It's not any of our business to tell you what to do with it. So I'd say that's an internal question for the tribe. We're happy to make the payment. What you do with it is, honestly, it's none of our business, and you don't want me having an opinion. So.
And one more. I appreciate your honesty and your answer. The other issue that we have is the question that was asked earlier, Todd, was this money, the taxes that we have, can we internally take it to the schools? I think, Mr. Watt, if this is something you can take to the chairman, I think we should look at subsidizing some support to the schools. I believe that we have some room there. We have 5% gross proceeds, and there's 15% of the export or the road, you know, all these royalties. But the severance tax, correct me if I'm wrong, but is the severance tax at 15%? And we're at 15% on that?
The severance is 15 and gross proceeds is 5.
Okay, that's a total of 20%. We can easily adjust that to where the area schools, wherever the pros are. Like right now, Lodgegrass is having a hard time. You got Bunny Clues High School having a hard time. You've got the Pretty Eagle, little Pretty Eagle Catholic School needs a new gym. You've got, you know, all these different schools, you know, there's Wyola, all these different ones that need some support. And I believe that it wouldn't be too much to ask if the tribe would be able to subsidize some of these things for that. You know, I mean, I know there's going to probably be a big wish list of things that they'd probably like to get taken care of, but if anything, I don't know if we'd be able to afford it all in one shot, but over the course of these years, and I believe we're looking at a long-time development deal here, I believe that every year a certain percentage could go to these schools to subsidize in these areas, whether it be brand new shoes, or whether it be for football brand new cleats, or whether it be new tag armor for the football players, or new gymnasium, or bleachers, or whatever be the case. I think, Mr. Watt, we need to implement that into the deal on our internal side, so in that way we can look at
assisting our local schools just because they don't get to vote. They're still pro-tribal members, and I think that's something that we ought to look at. Because we've never done anything to the effect of ever trying to assist them in those areas as far as per cap goes. That's great. And I believe our per cap on the export is going to be 15%, right? And then we got a sliding scale up to 12.5% on the royalties as far as domestic coal is concerned. So we've got those areas covered. But some of these other areas we could shave off with our service taxes and our gross proceeds to assist these area schools. And that's something that I would really press for this body to make a recommendation to the executive branch as our negotiators to assist us in helping us make an approval to this Cloud Peak deal, so that way we can get some of these areas ironed out. I hope.
So I think that's questions to this point. I'll continue with the presentation of the deal.
Just for a quick note, we're just under 100 on live stream too, so there's people watching on live stream. So go ahead and continue on with their presentation.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Bill? So if we could, Bill's helping me with the buttons. So to talk about the deal, there are a lot of moving pieces, so I'll try to break it down. And you know, I'm in the coal business, so I understand this stuff. I can't assume everybody who's streaming would understand or know all the things in the coal business. So I'll try to break this down so it's clear. Again, we're talking about right now, and what is before this body is approval of an option agreement. And an option agreement basically means we've got 3 areas that I showed you, Squirrel Creek, Tanner Creek, and Upper Youngs Creek, that we'd like to do exploration on, and we do that under a separate exploration agreement. And then we would pay the tribe for the right to hold that coal for us at a price that if we decide we want it, then we'll pay you that price and have a lease. Until then, we're only paying for a right. So think of it this way. I used the example of buying a car, and I used this yesterday. I hope it's worked. But if you go by the car dealer and he's got a nice shiny red truck out there for $1,000, and you think you might want it, but you're not sure, you might say to him, hey, let me give you $50, and I want you to sit on that truck for me at that price for a week. He says, okay. A week goes by, you don't come back, he's got your $50, it's over, he's $50 better off, he can sell the truck to somebody else for $1,000. So the first part of the deal is, we just want to pay you that $50, more money of course, to hold these coal reserves for the first period for 5 years while we do exploration, figure out what we want, at a price that we've agreed to now. And if within that 5 years, if I decide I want it, then in the example, I go back to the car dealer and I say, all right, here's $1,000 and I want that truck. And he will sell me that truck then because I came back before the week was up. He still has my $50 and he has $1,000. So he's actually better off. In our deal, I think 25 of that 50 would come back to Cloud Peak, but the tribe would still essentially get $1,025 for that truck. But again, the key thing here is if we never come back for that truck, that money is yours and we're gone. And you still have the coal and you can do what you want with it. So again, we're talking about an option agreement. So upon approval of our agreement, we would have 5 years to exercise a lease. And if we exercise a lease and pay you for that, we've got 2 more leases out there. We'd like an opportunity to go for an additional amount of time to 2025 to have a chance to exercise and pay for another lease. And if we do that and we still have a 3rd lease out there, then we'd like an opportunity to go for some additional time. And I think that's on the next slide. But the key here is if we don't pay, we don't move forward. For the payments that we'll get into Senator Stewart's questions on what to do with the money that Cloud Peak is ready to give the tribe as soon as you sign the deal and approve it, we're ready to give the tribe $2.25 million, and that's yours. And I want to be clear, that's a risk to Cloud Peak, because the deal then has to go to the BIA for approval. They could take up to 6 months to approve it. We we don't have a deal we can count on until we have their approval. If they don't approve it, we pay $2.25 million for nothing. So we're willing to take that risk, but I want to be clear, that's money at risk for us. But once the BIA approves, then we'll pay another $1.5 million. And these are just those option payments. Then, for the balance of the 5 years, we're paying $1.5 million every year. Up until the last year, we paid $1.75 million. So in total, if we never exercise anything and we go the full 5 years, we've given the tribe $10 million. And if we don't exercise anything, we got nothing and you got $10 million. That's one possible scenario. After that, because we did say we'd kind of like to have something for our $10 million, and so we negotiated with the tribe and got to the point of saying, if at the end of the 5 years we want to give you an additional $2.5 million, then you'll give us a right for 3 years. If anybody else comes in, we can match their price and come back in. You'd be indifferent, but at least for our $10 million, we got something to show. Well, I guess for $12.5 million because we pay extra. So as I said, we have 5 years to exercise a lease, and if we don't, we're gone. If we do, then we get another period to exercise a second or third lease through 2025. And if we exercise another one then, we've got another opportunity to exercise another final lease through 2035. Again, we never get there if we're not exercising a lease prior to that and we're not producing coal, hiring Crow tribal members, and paying money to the tribe. So, in my example of the truck, the $1,000, each time we exercise a lease, we'll pay for that lease somewhere between $21 and $25 million for each lease. That's for the primary coal, and I should talk about primary and secondary coal, but there's a lot of coal here. Some we're going to mine sooner, some we would mine much later. Later coal is hard to pay for up front, so we have a scheme where we pay 0.2 cents per ton per year on secondary coal until it's fully paid, and that could end up being anywhere from $15 to $61 million, in addition to the 21 to 25 for the primary up front. This is all money we paid just for the right now to be able to mine the coal. When we actually start mining the coal, now we're also going to be paying you royalties and taxes and employing Crow tribal members. So there are several ways we'll pay you as we mine the coal. The obvious one is, as owners of the coal, you get a royalty. And the federal standard royalty is 12.5%. And if you remember the first slide, Crow coal is as much as 13 miles away. And if we tried to pay you 12.5%, we would never come to Crow coal. We would just keep mining federal coal. So we needed to have something to offset the additional cost of hauling the coal. We came up with a sliding scale royalty concept where at Upper Youngs Creek we'd start out at a 10% royalty, and as the price of coal goes up, we'd eventually get to 12.5%. For the Squirrel and Tanner reserves, we started at 8%, again going to 12.5%, and that's just for domestic sales. Any coal that we export, we agreed we pay 15% royalty without any sliding scale. And again, because the secondary coal is more costly to mine, we started at a somewhat lower royalty rate to start. But again, this all goes back to, why would Platte Peak mine Crow coal instead of federal coal? So we had to have some reason why we would do that. There were a lot of comments about the deal going on for a very long time, and so we've recently discussed with the executive putting in reopeners every 25 years, and we're even modifying that even more this morning to the tribe's benefit. From our perspective, if we're going to invest in all three areas, might end up being $700 million to develop the mine in capital. That's putting in all the trucks, all the drag lines, all the equipment, all the roads. That could be $700 million. To make that kind of investment, we need to be pretty certain we know what our costs are going to be. So we didn't have any reopeners originally. the tribe came back and said that you would like something. We talked about 50-year reopeners, and eventually we ended up at 25-year reopeners. And talking to Bill this morning, we're kicking around some ideas for making that even a little more open for the tribe after the 25th anniversary. So if federal royalties go up, if the state taxes go up, then the tribe gets the ability to match that. But from Cloud Peak's perspective, we need the stability of those 25 years in order to know what our numbers are going to be, because we're going to invest an awful lot of money in capital, and we just need to know what the costs are going to be. On the 12.5% federal royalty, I would note that the Youngs Creek leases that we have with Sherwin and Consol are 8%, and there is no sliding scale. It's just 8% period. So we think the proposal with the tribe is certainly much better than Consol and Chevron got.
Okay, a question or a comment? Just recognize Senator Gozad of the prior district.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the body. I know that I was in some of the meetings previously, and just remembering some of the area where the coal is being mined, the option to lease and so forth. I know one of the main things, and I know you brought this up, maybe it was in Sheridan at one time, when about four of the legislators went up to that negotiation in Sheridan, I believe at the holiday. And one of the questions that one of the legislators, or us legislators, asked was about Astric using that for a comparison, and where it's about the EA, environmental assessment, and the EIS. And if we had an EA and EIS in the area where it's being mined, or the proposed mine for coal, I believe you said that permitting would be quicker, and then I believe the bonus would be higher. Is that? I know that the environmental assessment and the environmental impact statement has a lot to do with the permitting, and that would. But this is what I keep hearing: because you don't have it, you have to put money into the environmental assessment and the environmental impact statement. And I know BIA they have the trust responsibility to do that, but we always hear that they don't have the manpower to make any of those assessments or the environmental impact statements, and I've heard that from the BIA previously. So, but that reduces our bonuses, startup bonuses. That's my question.
Well, sir, you're right. There is no permit. I mean, part of the permitting process is to get an EIS, and they're looking at the environmental impacts as well as socioeconomic. You don't get a permit until you have the EIS. It's all part of the permitting process. And even exploration will need a permit, and there'll probably be an environmental assessment attached to that as well. So you just assume that those costs are in there, and there's no way of not having that. They're material in terms of the time it takes and the amount of effort it takes, and they're not cheap, but it's not tens of millions of dollars. It wouldn't change the bonus payment. And I can tell you that Youngs Creek, we got a lease, and they had a permit, so we bought a permit, and we're paying 8% royalty. So the EIS doesn't really affect the bonus payment. Time is a bigger variable. Am I going to be mining in the next 5 years, 10 years, or 30 years? That's a bigger one, and that's why with the secondary coal, definitely it's out there in years, and so it's turned into a lower number today.
But the permitting is a lot quicker when there's an EIS.
In fact, you've got to have your mine plan to do the EIS, and so you really can't take them apart.
Okay. My other question, I was going to ask this previously, but we are on the lease part. So, and this is, I'm speaking on behalf of the allotee land, and I'm going to make a comment that the current chairman, Black Eagle, made this statement regarding, and this is going hand in hand, in my opinion, of the a lottee is under the trust responsibility of the BIA, is what he said. When the question was asked, are the allottees in the particular area of Nels Creek, Squirrel Creek, Tanner Creek, when they're the service landowners as well, maybe as mineral owners, are they going to get a fair negotiations? That was one of the concerns of this body. And the chairman's response was that they're under the trust responsibility of the BIA. I remember that, and some of you fellow senators might recall that. But yet, I'm going to as an example with the Water Settlement Act. There's the allottees are involved in that water right. And so he's double talking because the allottees were never brought to the negotiating table on the water right. But yet on April 27th of this year of 2012, Friday 27th, during the April session, the chairman made announce to the legislative branch that he was going to DC to sign the water compact on that day. On behalf of the Crow, the chairman, current chairman, sign off all waivers of any future settlements. And then state of Montana governor sign on behalf of the state of Montana, and then Ken Salazar at the time, the Secretary of Interior, sign off the waivers of any further settlements on behalf of the allottees, water right. And the allottees were never brought to the negotiating table. That is my concern with this. It's the same thing. The allottees are not represented. The chairman says the trust responsibility belongs to the BIA. That is something that we need a definition, an INDA, to protect the allottees' right. According to our Constitution, I know some of the allottees are here in that general area. There are allottees right now. So I am here, and we are here as senators to protect that right as well, according to our Constitution. So I want to send that message to you. If you want this to pass, you're going to have to look at that. Quit saying and passing the buck, it belongs to the responsibility of the BIA. We've got to protect the rights. There's 6,000 individual allottee Crow landowners. That's a lot of people. There's 13,210 Crows right now. So we have to protect their rights. So quit saying it belongs to the trust responsibility of the BIA. We need to protect those rights. So I want that's a message to you, Todd. Okay? Thank you.
Senator, you've been very firm about that in the past, and I assure you that we've heard you loud and clear on that. I might let Bill discuss, if there's any parallel or not to the water compact. I can't talk about that. I don't know the water compact issues that well.
I don't want to hear his comments.
Okay, fair enough. The way it works, so the way we view it, the tribal government can't negotiate on behalf of landowners. The BIA isn't going to negotiate on behalf of landowners. What the BIA will do, as far as we understand, is set the floor. They're going to require that appraisals have been done and that there's some minimum threshold that they're going to make sure people get paid. When we need a piece of land, we'll go to a family or the landowner and we'll say, we'd like this. And we're negotiating with them. So when it worked at the other mine on the north side of the reservation, you go to the landowner, you negotiate with them. Now, if they're worried that you're pulling a fast one on them, that's what the BIA is there for, to make sure that there's some minimum appraised value, that you're not trying to pay them less than that appraised value. So all they're doing is setting a floor. And we fully expect BIA in setting an appraisal is going to want to know what we paid for CX Ranch, which we think is a pretty high premium to start with. So we're already sort of swallowing hard that we've already pumped up the land value, and that's going to be reflected, the floor is going to be a lot higher than it normally would be. So we accept that. As I said earlier, whether people want to sell the land or lease the land, we don't know until we talk to people. And one family might want to do one thing and another do something else. But it's going to be a negotiation with individuals. And, you know, obviously, I'll say this, that it's certainly not in our interest to pay less than value, because that's just going to create ill will. We want to be fair, and we put some words in the agreement since this issue's come up to make clear that if the tribe thinks we're paying somebody less just because they happen to be a Crow allotee, it's in the contract now. You'd have grounds to come back and take us to court. So I can tell you that acquiring land is never a simple process. It's never clean, it's never easy, and everybody has different expectations, and everybody has different land. And, you know, we won't know until we get into it, but we're going to be negotiating with the landowners. And that's the way it's going to work. And there are going to be people out there, both the tribe making sure that we're not paying less than we should because they happen to be Crow tribal members with allotted land, and you're going to have the BIA doing appraisals to make sure we're not paying less than that. And we've already pumped up the value because we have a number that's in the agreement, it's $2,344 an acre, that's going to go and be part of the appraisal process. Again, all the land in CX Ranch isn't necessarily going to be the same land we want to buy. It's not all apples and apples, but it'll be taken into account. And beyond that, we've been struggling with what else can we say. We don't know what land we want. We don't know what the landowner is going to want to do. We just have to go through exploration, determine that, and go out and talk to people. But we have heard you very loud and very clear, and we get it. And we're doing everything we can to provide that. If you could require the landowners to accept a standard price, that would be great. We'd love that, but you can't. So short of that, we've done everything we can to assure that we're not going to pay less than we should. And again, we continue to be open to ideas, but I don't know what else we can do.
For recognizes Senator goes ahead of the Turtle Creek District again. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the body, and guests that are here. You know, the IMDA, Individual Minerals Development Act, that's what BIA always refer back to on appraisals for the lottees. And they piggyback, and just like you made a few comments there, see the lot, you're saying from your perspective on behalf of Cloud Peak Energy, we don't know what the allottees are going to be asking for. The allottees don't know what they're going to be asking for either. I mean, what, the IMDA. So the IMDA, if it's in here, the language is in here already at a fair market value for the surface land. If they own the minerals, that's even greater. But yet, they won't. What I want to see, I'd like to see, is that they get a fair. Instead of giving, they're going to piggyback on the IMDA that's being proposed in the Cloud Peak Energy. I believe they should be getting a fair, maybe. I know that when every rancher out there, they probably have lawyers, and I know that. And I know that their land is not going to be the same as the other rancher, the white rancher. So you're going to negotiate them. One is going to get more, one is going to get less. It's not going to be fair. But what I'm hearing from you, when you just made that comment, was, okay, the Crow allottee is going to get a fair market, everybody's going to get the same. I don't think it works that way, because their land and the topography of the land is going to be different. The appraisal, that's where I understand that. But the IMDA, Pacific Corp, I know Bill Watt made that deal. And I'll tell you right now, I don't trust Bill. He wasn't a very good negotiator, and I got after him. He brings a service to the Crow people. And he always speaks on behalf of the company instead of on behalf of the Crow people. I know that. And he's here to defend himself. He wants to make comment on that. With the Pacific Corp, I was there, I was the Natural Resources Chairman at the time. He didn't do his research. And sometimes he's not an expert at it. He might be an expert at some things, but he's not expert of it all. So, that's why I'm asking these questions. Give the allottee. It could be more. But what I'm hearing is that, okay, there's appraisal here, but I know, and we hear on the Westmoreland, Sarpy side, that some of these white ranchers, they get a little more than the individual allottee. That's what I don't like. And that's a fact. So I want to end with that.
You know, there are a couple of things there. One, I would say that one of the white ranchers at Westmoreland got taken to court. So, you know, to say that the white rancher got treated a lot more nicely than the crow, I'd say you'd ask Mr. Peters, and he's not a very pleasant person, and I don't think he got treated very nicely because of it. I'm struggling with your comments about Mr. Watt. It's not my place to have a comment, so I'm going to bite my tongue. I will say that as far as is this a negotiation for the tribe or not, I do have to say that if you were a country and not a tribe, it would be a far different deal for Cloud Peak Energy, and one better for us by far. And I just want to make that point. We have a lot of respect for the tribe. We have a lot of respect for the people that we've dealt with, including the legislative body. And I just want to let you know the amount of respect we have, and that we do have so much respect that it comes through in the negotiations. And I'll just say again, if you were a private company, it would be a very different deal.
Okay.
And finally, with respect to the landowners again, you know, we put in the agreement that if the tribe suspects that we pay somebody less because they're pro, because it's allotted land, it's in the agreement that we shall not do that. You have grounds to do something about it. It's not our intent to do that, and we're going to be as fair as we possibly can. I know it's easy for me to say that. We try to put it in words in a contract you can take to court as best we can. And as I said, I'm not sure what else we can say. We get it. We can imagine from your perspective, you'd be concerned. So again, we are listening. We are trying our best to address your concern. Again, the tribe, the government cannot negotiate on behalf of individuals. And so there's only so much we can do because of that.
All right, the floor now recognizes Senator Stewart of the Black Watch District.
Hello, Mr. Speaker, Secretary, members and guests, Mr. Vice Secretary. The comment that I have is, you know, I look at the language and we're working really good towards what we've talked about before as natural resource chairman, reflecting these concerns. I really believe that we're moving forward in those areas, and I'm glad that the committee stood their ground to make these adjustments for the landowners as well as the poor people. If the committee doesn't speak up, then some of these things will not be heard. They won't be reflected in the agreement. So this is something that we've got to look at. Right now, from my understanding, we've got a floor of $2,344 that we're looking at right now. That's how we're saying on the agreement.
I'm saying that number will be in the appraisals, because not all land is the same.
Yeah, not all land is the same, but we've got something to work with, and that's we've asked for the comparable value, so then that way the landowner and the non-member, the lottee versus the non-member would have equal footing. Speaking, I was the advocate for the Bird Jefferson family at the time when things were going south on the Westmoreland side, and they were only given $400 an acre on appraised value from the Bureau of Indian Affairs. And the non-member got a private appraisal outside of that. But the Bureau of Indian Affairs, being their trust responsibility, I think that's the guy we need to go after on this issue. And the injustice that was done there was that the market value of the property, they utilized the $100 grazing value. And this is something that I want to reflect as fact right now. Bureau of Indian Affairs utilized that, and that was to our disadvantage as tribal members. And when they appraised the land at $400 an acre, they made it look like they did a tribal member a favor. If we're gonna look at something, and I'm glad that you set a precedent here, talk about this 2344. I think we gotta start looking at establishing these comparable values. Again, I'll say it and I'll say it again, it's always gonna be part of standard protocol. But you go off the reservation and you build a home or you buy a property, you're gonna wanna look at the property value of the area. So then that way you're not paying more or paying less, or the value of your land is not gonna be more, less than what you want. It's an investment, it's your investment, it's yours, and so it's something that you're gonna invest in, and so, that's just standard protocol off the reservation. And so, us being a sovereign nation, we can establish the market value of our properties. And I believe, Mr. Bullshead, I think we should have a discussion as surface, you're the surface owner, or surface chairman, surface land chairman, I'm the secretary of the surface land and chairman of natural resources. These are some of the things that we need to bring to light, and I believe we're coming into a new age of cooperative government, that we're going to be able to come to the Bureau of Indian Affairs and establish marketable values on our trust lands. Right now, we don't have that. We do not have that, and the Bureau is still recognizing 1920 numbers. And so this is something I think that we need to look at. And it's just a recommendation to the full body here, as well as the respective committee chairs, that this is something I think that right now, you know, I believe what we're hearing today, we're moving forward in the direction that we would want to go. But overall, to cure the problem, I think we need to start looking at the Bureau of Indian Affairs. The Bureau of Indian Affairs, we don't work for them, they work for us. That's the reason why they're getting paid here, to look at those figures, they're getting paid to oversee those areas. They're not here to dictate to you, you're there to dictate to them. And if you don't like the market of the value of your land, then you can say something. This body can say something, because they have to abide by tribal law. I'm getting tired of this reflection of letters that are coming in from Ed Parisian and whoever else over there. When I'm the elected official, you're the elected official, you're the co-tribe member, you're the ones that they put in there. And he's saying that you don't have to, he doesn't have to listen to your tribal law. And so this is something, I don't know if everybody got this letter. Everybody got a letter here, this is what he's saying. So I think if we're gonna really speak to this issue concerning the marketable value, we gotta hit the root of the problem. And the big elephant in the room is the Bureau of Indian Affairs. We gotta go after that one. The Crow tribe is waking up. And this is what we're waking up to. And these are some of the areas I think we can modify to establish good marketable value for our trust land before we do not have a land base. And this is something that we need to go after. So, with all due respect, you know, with where we're going with this, you know, direction of comparable values, I appreciate everything you're doing, Todd, and I think we're going in that direction. We're looking at going in that direction. Just like Senator Gozet stated, the topography is different. You know, I'm not going to spend X amount of dollars for good land over here when you got a swamp over here. I don't know, you know, there's going to be differences with the values. And so we got to look at it like that. Everything's a little different. But if we can come to terms on some kind of a floor, as well as looking at the appraised values, as far as the one thing I heard today was that what BIA will appraise by. Well, I don't trust BIA. And I think it's a proven fact that BIA is not there for you. I think the Cabal case proved that. And I think we need to address those areas. We need to address this letter, because a lot of these things are coming about. We're a coal tribe, we're a minerals tribe, we're always going to be dealing with land. So if we want to make any modification to any future situations that we're in, we got to look at the trial and error of the past. And right now, I believe we're moving in the right direction. So with that being said, Mr.
Senator Goldsmith, I think that that's something we ought to look at. I think we ought to call this guy in here, Ed Regan. He wants to make morals, we'll go to him. You know, he wants to make, letters like this and stand behind the stamp of the United States government. Well, we're gonna have to remind him he doesn't work, we don't work for him, he works for us. So, with that being said, I'll give it back to, Mr. Myers here.
Okay, thank you. So again, we're going through the terms of the proposed lease. So as I talked about earlier, there's an option agreement, and then if we exercise an option, we have a lease. So we're making payments for the option, we're making payments when we exercise a lease, when we actually get the lease, and then we're making payments as we mine the coal. And the first piece of payment that we're making is the royalties. And again, 12.5% federal, anywhere from 7.5%, 8% to 15% pro, and 8% flat at Young's Creek, just how that all compares. And again, the sliding scale because we need to have some reason to come to pro instead of continuing with federal coal, which is right next to our mine. The tribe will also collect, and I think this goes in part to the question asked earlier, severance tax and gross proceeds tax. The tribe took the state of Montana to court in the 1990s and prevailed. So the tribe collects severance tax and gross proceeds, which are 15% and 5% nominal. Now you get to subtract out other taxes in the calculation. So at the end of the day, if the price is $10, you're not getting 20 cents, you're getting 14 cents, the way the math works. So just to be honest about it, that amounts to 14%, not 20, once you do the math. The tribe negotiated to keep that at a fixed rate, so that if the state lowers their taxes at all, that the tribe's taxes don't get lowered. So we agreed to fix that in the agreement, but again, because of the concerns of the tribe that this could go on for a long time, the request for reopeners, we recently agreed that every 25 years, if the state taxes go up, we agree that your taxes would go up, not down. If they go down, that's too bad for Cloud Peak. Hopefully I'm retired by then. Okay? So again, those are the three pieces: royalty, severance tax, gross proceeds tax. And I'll show you a chart coming up how that adds up. To Senator Alden's question on scholarship, yes, very early on we offered and put out a scholarship of $50,000 per academic year that will adjust for inflation. I'm hearing you loud and clear that you might like to see a different number. I'd point out that Cloud Peak has other company-wide scholarships that once the tribe becomes part of the community of the corporate community, tribal members are eligible for those scholarships as well. So you can apply for those just like anybody else in a community where the company operates. So that's in addition to the $50,000. And there are other community outreach things we do that tribal members would be eligible for just like any other Cloud Peak community. Cloud Peak does not want to select the winners for scholarships. We would like to work with the tribe to set up a selection committee. The selection committee will decide who gets the scholarships. You don't want us being involved in that, and we don't want to necessarily be involved. We want to know it's going to good use, it's going to the right people, but this is something that we think a tribal selection committee will have to decide. And so as soon as we get an agreement signed, our folks who do scholarships are looking forward to finding the right people with the tribe to get together to put that committee together. And we're willing to start doing this for the 2013-2014 academic year. So we make the first payment right when we get BIA approval, which at this point might be April or May. So we want to start that. We believe in that. Finally, there are a lot of other things, but an important one is the Indian Coal Production Tax Credit, which you currently share at the Absalica mine. And we've agreed to help get that extended because it expires at the end of this year. Cloud Peak has a very large government affairs group and a very large government affairs budget and a very large presence in the state of Montana. We think we can help the lobbying efforts to try to get that tax extended. And just like the deal we cut with you cut with Westmoreland, we'd agree to share a third of the cash value we get from that credit. And so that would be part of the deal. But again, as it stands now, that expires at the end of 2012. So I don't think anybody, I know we're certainly not going to do everything we can to work with you to extend that. So as I said earlier, looking at a pie chart, if we get $15 for a ton of coal at the mine, and I assume a 10% starting royalty, and again, that can go to 12.5, but just starting at 10, the Crow tribe would get 10% of that $15, get 14% in production taxes. The bonus payment spread over the tons mined would be somewhere around 1%. And then because we'll have largely a Crow workforce on the Big Metal project, most of the labor and wages are going to come to the tribe. When you add all that up, you're upwards of 43%, and at higher royalty rates that can get up to the 15%, you're pretty close to half of all revenue coming to the tribe. And so what do we do with the other 50 cents a ton? Well, we're spending it on income taxes, we're spending it on capital, spending it on mining costs, we're spending it on fuel and lubricants, we're spending it on repair and maintenance. So in this example, our margin is 8 cents out of that dollar. And that works for us. But just to be clear, where does a dollar of revenue go? What we're proposing is, and the way it will work, is obviously it's a lot of money to mine coal. The tribe's going to get the biggest chunk of that revenue dollar by far. So in addition to the sorry,
Senator, I've got some questions, and we'll start with Senator Not Afraid of the Lodge Grass District.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the body. I know that I overheard talk after the meeting yesterday that time is of the essence. Could you tell the body why that statement was made yesterday?
Yes, and I plan to get to that at the end, but I'll certainly discuss it now. Coal mining is a lot of it's a lot of capital and it's a lot of time. If we start tomorrow on our exploration, which is what I'll talk about here, it could be 18 to 20 months to find a window for the weather and for the seasons and when the government allows you to actually drill, to know where the coal is exactly and exactly what we want. And this builds on some drilling that Rio Tinto had done previously but never really finished. Once we know that and we exercise the lease, then it's got to go to BIA for approval, and that takes time. And we're into the permitting process. All told, it could be at least 5 years, maybe 7 years to get a permit and to have the leases all in place so we can actually start mining. So if you said go today, we'd be at the earliest probably talking 2017 now to get into mining, possibly 2018. So time is of the essence. The exploration, again, as I said, there are drilling windows. We're very close now to maybe missing the drilling window for 2013. I can't tell you that if tomorrow's going to make a difference or next week's going to make a difference. I can tell you every day that goes by is not a good day. That we could lose drilling in 2013. And so if I'm saying we could drill in 2017, yeah, now it's 2018. And, you know, there's the time matters, but there's also uncertainty. Time means uncertainty. It's just another year that something could happen where maybe we decide we're not going to mine, we're not committed. So time is never your friend in coal mining. You want to get going. And so, you know, we are very anxious at Tri Peak to see this agreement go up for a vote and to get signed. We have our check for $2.25 million ready to pay and send off to BIA. But again, we are very concerned about time. It just takes a long time to get a coal mine up and going. During that 5 years to 7 years, we also need to get a coal workforce up and going. And we'd like to start out soon at a smaller level and then build that over time as we get closer so that when we hit the start date, we have a pro workforce that's ready to be there and be a predominantly pro workforce. So there's all that work that has to go on also. And again, as soon as we sign, we're anxious to sit down with representatives from the tribe to talk about what should a training program look like. We put a lot of things that I'll come up with in the next few slides about how to manage and work with a pro labor workforce. How can we make that better? So there's a lot of things to be done. So again, to the senator's question, time is a critical thing.
All right, floor now recognizes Senator Knut Oak Crow, Secretary of the House of the Valley of the Chiefs District.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mike, you already answered part of my question in that last statement there in regards to acquiring skilled trades for the tribal members so that they can be employable at that time when construction starts on the reservation side. I guess my question is on the scholarships. Are those scholarships geared toward the general disciplines, or is it discipline specific in regards to acquiring skilled upper level management type of skills for some of the tribal members that might be interested, or the scholarships just like I said, just in general specific to any discipline for other children or young adults that want to acquire a better lifestyle by acquiring a better education?
Sure. Well, first of all, on the scholarships and who would get them, again, we'd like that to be up to the selection committee. Our intent would be to any secondary education at all that the committee thinks is appropriate. As far as getting skills to people, the trades and the management, we think we're providing for that separately. We are committing to providing training and supervisory opportunities. So we don't want to use the scholarship to fulfill our obligation to train. We think that's a separate obligation. So it's in addition. We think we have an obligation to train.
Thank you.
All right, floor now recognizes Vice Secretary of the Executive Branch, Darren Hochheil.
So, John, I had a question on this exploration agreement. If I can recall, when we were negotiating with Rio Tinto, there was already a drilling program that was in place, and there was already test drilling done, and I believe they spent like $3 million on that, and those the tests are over in Denver at Division of Energy Minerals Development, and there's already a mining plan. So what's 18 to 20 months? You say time is of the essence. The mining plan is already, I don't think you have to go back and redo the whole mining plan or redo the whole drilling program. So why is that part of this 18 to 20 months that you say time is of the essence and you have to get it going, because that drilling program is already there, and those service access agreements, a lot of those individuals already signed a lot of those back then. I know we have to probably put the Call Peak on there, but the access agreements, I don't think it'll be a problem, because a lot of those fee and a lot of people, the individuals already signed those service access agreements to get to those drilling sites. And the drilling program, the test drilling is already done, and the mining plan's there, so why, it says $3 million. Rio Tinto already spent $3 million getting all those, and now you're gonna spend another $3 million getting the same program going and the same access agreements going. So that's kind of my question. Why are we doing things twice?
Sure, and that's a good question. We've heard that before, and unfortunately our geologist was here yesterday and he went back to Gillette last night. But the short answer is Rio Tinto, if they were us, they'd be doing exactly the additional drilling that we're doing. So again, they never completed the drilling. They did sort of a first phase, and there was always a completion phase, and they never did the completion phase. So we need to do that last bit to have all the drilling done the way it needs to be done. If there were anything specific, again, it's too bad our geologist was here yesterday. He could answer very specifically what we need to do, but as he's explained it to me and shown me, there are certain areas that need to be maybe closer spacing, maybe some outer edges need to be done, but the first phase gives you the general picture, the second phase sort of finishes it off. So we do need to do that, and Rio Tinto would have done that as well. The access agreements, we're looking at that. Again, we have to enter into new access agreements. We're not Rio Tinto anymore, we're somebody different, so just legally we have to do that. And then it's not clear that we might need some new exploration areas where we didn't have access. And aside from that, the old access agreements probably have expired by now anyway. So we do need to do the work, and you're absolutely right, we're not starting from scratch. So that's a good news story. But we do need to do that last bit of drilling, and we've got a window we're shooting for next year, so we can get that done and move on.
Go ahead and proceed with your
Okay.
presentation.
So I think we already talked about land acquisition. Again, if we acquire any land on the reservation, we're gonna do it in the tribe's name and lease it back. You know, again, if landowners wanna lease us the land instead of selling it, I mean, we're just gonna have to know what people want. And we don't know that yet. We have bought CX Ranch and I already talked to you about opportunities we're presenting to the tribe to acquire those lands, either before we mine or, you know, after we mine. A little on exploration and permitting, and there's a lot of concern about archaeological sites and cultural sites. Again, that's all part and parcel. That's required under any environmental impact statement. We don't get a permit unless we've gone out and done a cultural survey. TIPO is going to be part of that. We made, you know, been redundant about that, making it clear in the agreement that TIPO is going to be part of that. So there were comments I've heard, maybe TIPO should have done something different in different situations. Again, you know, as the company, all we can do is work with TIPO, which is designated cultural resource agency, and we're going to involve the tribe. And the federal government's going to make us involve the tribe even if we didn't want to, and trust me, we do want to. So we're going to spend a lot of time, we're going to have outreach, and we're going to make sure that we respect cultural sites and areas of sensitivity. We spent a lot of time with the tribe going through the Workforce Protection Act, making sure that it's incorporated into the agreements. And the first and foremost, and there was never any dispute, we always understood and agreed that of course there's going to be preferential hiring on the reservation. And not just hiring, but to get good jobs, there's got to be training. And with training, there's got to be opportunities for promotion to jobs of responsibility. So we get that. And the provisions here for training and promotion are things that you don't have, as far as I recall, in your other lease with your other mining company. So that's something that we're making sure is in there. We have about a half dozen Crow tribal members working at our Spring Creek mine. Some in very good positions, one in a very senior leadership position in the crafts. You know, we want to draw on them for what works for them, and we'll be seeking their advice as well. But we definitely see that we're going to have a responsibility for training and hiring and promoting.
Okay, if we can stop right there, we've got a question from Senator Gozahead of the Arrow Creek District.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the body. Yes, on that information that you just said, you know, one of the mine workers that are working over there, they would like to see, well, I guess some of them have talked to you as well too, of their concerns currently and hopefully in the future, that, and they want, they're sharing this with us because this is the time to bring this out, is, you know, some of the, on the Wyoming side, is that some of the overhead workers are not, they don't want, they put a lot of, it's stressful at times, but they would like to see somebody that they can trust to be supervising. And one of them is, a couple names that came out is Kenneth Brennan. There's another one. Oh man, I can't remember right now. But there is also a non-Indian that they do trust, and which is Dave Schwinn. He's from Joliet, but he said he's pretty good to work with. So this is our information. We need to hear things like that, as well as, because we are, but they would like to see somebody that's going to be in a supervisory position. He said, I'll just bring it right out. You know, every one of us, you know, we deal with, you know, jealousy, racism, whatever it is, you know, from the non-Indian, and it's happening over there. And so that's their concern. And as a representative, they share this concern with me to speak on their behalf. And we don't want to see any of that. I know what you're talking about, and I see it's good. Yes, the good paying job, it's very good. And then I know that they appreciate, but when, you know, the leadership, the supervisors are really making it hard for them at times, you know, I don't like to see that. So I'm speaking on their behalf. And, you know, they would like to, you know, Mr. Speaker and Natural Resources Chairman, they would like to, you know, come and, you know, talk to us and share their concerns. So I said I would share that with the body today, so I'm doing that. So, you know, that's all I want to let you know, and I know that some of them did talk to you about it, but, you know, their preference wouldn't be Kenneth Brent either. So.
Well, again, you know,
I'm gonna bring it right out. You know?
We've got a lot of people that would be looking at, as far as Ken, you know, I've worked with him at Westmoreland, so I've just reached out to him to get some advice and to help us out in the early stages. We have a workforce that we see as a core for any new operation, the people working at Spring Creek. If anything, working with the tribe at Big Meadow has gotten the mine manager, Bruce Jones, who you've met, very focused on them as pro-tribal members. He's put together a concept of a steering committee where he'd like to see our current employees provide advice and input, you know, issues that they've seen. You know, even talking to CJ about things that have worked and haven't worked at Upsalica, you know. It's pretty obvious to me some of the things that didn't work. There's never an operations up there, but I can see it coming in from the outside. We've tried to address all of these things, but yeah, we're going to draw on our existing employees that we know, that know Cloud Peak and the way we work, and we're going to count on them to share that in building a workforce and to be the leaders over on the reservation. And Bruce Jones is very committed to that, and as I said, we already reached out to these folks for their thoughts and comments.
Todd, so just for a point of clarification, so we're asking for assurance that tribal members that are employed, that they will be able to advance throughout the workforce rather than being limited to just being, if they're hired as a laborer, they stay a laborer. You know, we want to be assured that as they work there, they get the on-the-job training and they learn skills, so that then as they learn skills, they move up the ladder. And we want to see more tribal members in the leadership roles of your company as time goes on. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah, no, and we heard that again very clearly, and I understand that from having worked at Westmoreland. We absolutely know that's an issue, and we wrote that into the agreement as best we can. The other thing we did was to require that, let's see here, number 5, that Cloud Peak is going to be obligated to report to the tribe on an annual basis, and we give you the statistics. Here's how many people we hired during the year. Here's what those jobs were. Here's how many were pro and how many weren't pro. And you'll see if we hired 5 supervisors and none of them were pro, we're gonna be having a discussion with you, because we're required in the agreement to meet with you once a year and to give you that information so you can look at it and comment on it and raise objections. So it's something you don't have at the other mine. You know, we put a lot of things in where we're constantly coming to you. We want open communications. You know, probably we know there's very good reasons why we couldn't find a qualified pro electrician. It looks bad, and we can explain it to you, or we can't explain it. You call us on it, and we've got to make it right. But there will be that opportunity.
Floor now recognizes Senator Rilberg of the Mighty View District.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the body, I had a question that kind of refers back, you know, about the water. What would you be considered as a junior right or senior water user? What other rights do you have? And I guess another question is how thorough are they? How much are they involved in all this hiring and everything?
On the reservation, you know, I don't think we have I don't think there are many, if any, water rights we got with Sirius Ranch on the reservation. I think most of our water rights we acquired are off the reservation. So, and I think they're pretty senior. But on the reservation, I think we probably have to go out and acquire water rights. And I'm sort of speaking without really being in that my area of expertise. But right now, we only own the Holden property, 560 or 70 acres. We don't have anything else on the reservation. Bill, I think in our agreement we addressed water. I'm trying to remember what we said about it.
Excuse me, thanks, Todd. I believe it's with the speaker's permission. Water is addressed with respect to mining needs, and the mine would have the ability to drill a water well or to use water from the pits that drains into them. That would all be subject to the tribal water rights ordinance, future water rights ordinance, and the permitting requirements that are in that. So I think that's how water is generally addressed in the agreement.
Yeah, I think that's right, Bill. And then with respect to Taro, they would absolutely have a right to, if we have a job opening, we have to inform Taro. We plan that we want to develop our own database of qualified Crow that could be available for hiring. If we don't have a Crow candidate for a job, we have to give Taro notice. They'll have 72 hours to locate somebody else. We talked, I think the Workforce Protection Act provides for 48 hours, so we provided a little bit longer time. But they're definitely going to be involved in making sure that they can oversee or hiring qualified Crow candidates. Absolutely. So other elements that we put into the agreements, as I said, preferential hiring, preferences for Crow contractors. We discussed yesterday, Cloud Peak is not a big user of contractors, but we do use them. We have 3 criteria for procurement. One is safety record. Safety is number 1 for us. 2 is qualifications. And 3 is cost. On cost, we're giving a 5% leeway to any Crow contractor. So if a non-Crow contractor meets all the criteria and bids $1, and a Crow contractor comes in and bids $1.05, Crow contractor gets it. We also talked about setting up a contractor fair for Crow contractors. As soon as we sign this deal, we'd like to have an open house and have our procurement department meet with potential contractors to show them how the Cloud Peak procurement system works. It's not the easiest thing to work your way through, so we want to train them so they know how to do it, and then to make available to them immediately all the contracts that we have at our other mines at the moment. So the preference would count for Big Meadow only, but we want to start letting people start bidding on other jobs right away so as they get to know the system and have those opportunities as well.
All right, Mr. Myers, floor recognizes Senator Backbone of the Reno District.
Thank you, Speaker, members of the body, visitors. Pertaining to Senator Rilbert's question from the IQ district on this water, you said the water codes and stuff that pertain to that water right. Do we have codes in place that you're going to go by, like a water code or for the water compact?
Yeah, I believe that's correct.
I believe that code should be coming through the legislature, and we've never seen that in.
I'm sorry, Bill's talking to you. We had a question on water regulations, the water code. As far as what the tribe may have, I'm sorry, I'm schooled in that enough. Do you know?
Well, they were just talking about it, right? Yeah, that's, and I'm sorry, that code, has not been developed yet. It will have to be approved by the BIA. I can't speak to that directly. It's not an area I'm working on every day, but it's going to be a major effort. And as we were just discussing, we hope to have that in place and approved before Cloud Peak needs any water up here. But we're working on an example right now.
Okay, floor recognizes Senator Goes Ahead of the Arrow Creek District.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the body, That's a very good question that you brought up. See, the codes haven't even been brought in here. I know it was an executive branch, and this is some of our concerns, Aiken and Gum. Plus, this is what I believe, this is an area where I believe you need to get your ducks in order in that area. With all due respect, Aiken and Gum is supposed to, or no, not the Aiken and Gum's helping out, but it's in the executive branch, and they're supposed to work on that water code through, Bill, you gotta get us up to speed in that area, because it's vitally important for this deal. And if you're trying to put the cart before the horse, or the horse before the cart, we haven't seen any water code, but yet we are the lawmakers, and if we haven't seen it at this point, I believe it's an issue with us. We haven't seen that water code, but yet we are the lawmakers that are supposed to be working on that water code. And right now, we haven't seen it at this point. And if you say time is of the essence, we haven't seen that water code, so what are you going to go by? So Bill, where is that water code? When is it going to come to the branch? Because it's going to apply to the individual lodgee as well as the Crow tribal water right in that area. So it's a very legitimate question that Senator Backlund brought up.
As it goes in, I don't know the answer to where exactly the development of the code is. Just with respect to how it relates to Cloud Peak. If this were a code to liquids, deal with 50,000 with a lot of water involved, the water would be much more significant. We did a lot of work on the Mini Stars water before that, and went a different direction. But for these purposes, we're talking probably a water well, the use of pit water at most. We're confident if that is needed prior to the tribe having all its code in place, that we can work through the BIA to obtain whatever authorizations are necessary with the tribe's recommendations, requests, and approvals to handle that situation for this code.
I'm going to interject right there, because in 2009, January 2009, we had a summit with the executive. I had asked the executive branch, specifically Chairman Black Eagle, water code. You guys remember? We sat at the hotel there in the conference room, and I asked the chairman then, we have to have a water code. In 2010 in January, same thing again, when we met in here, I asked for water code. And his explanation was we're working on it. 2011 January, again. And just this past 2012, water code again. I've been asking for this bill, the water code. And now we're coming to a deal here that's extremely important. And you just stated, well, the code of liquids is important, the water code is important because it's going to use a lot of water. But any deal that's going to use even this amount of water, 8 fluid ounces, it still belongs to the people. If it's going to use this much water, it still needs a water code. No matter how much water it uses, it needs a code. The code has not been brought to this branch yet. You just now stated you got to wait and see what BIA said about a code. Once again, you're overstepping this. You got to come to this branch. The water code has to come through this branch. Once again, you just slapped us in the face saying you got to go to BIA. Water code has to be approved, but it's got to come through here. We've been asking for it. 4 years of asking, 4 years of nothing. It's got to come to a stop. It's hurting the people. We've got landowners here. But once again, executive, trying to put the pressure on us to pass the deal, but you haven't prepared for the deal. So that's just a concern of ours, Mr. Myers. We're just doing our job. There's things that have to be in place before we can approve a deal. Something as important as this, a water code, that we were promised. There's a lot of promises that the executive made in order to make the people vote yes on a water code. One of those promises was a $700 per cap for people. Has anyone got their $700 per cap from passing the water code? No, that was a lie. You know, checks, maybe the check's in the mail, we don't know. You know, so it's the water code's important, Bill. We need to get going. We keep waiting and waiting. The water compact states it has to be done. We can't wait for, like how you presented this Cow Peak deal. Bring it in end of July and say, here, pass this on the 4th of August. It's too important for us to just to put a stamp of yes on anything that comes through this branch. We have to go through it thoroughly. And I emphasize thoroughly, because important deals like this impact the whole nation, not just today, but 10 years from now, 20 years from now. This is a 75-year deal. So it's something that's very important. But I think executive needs to start getting things in order and start getting down to business. So water code's important. Yes. Okay. So that's my comments. We're going to proceed on with your presentation. Just a comment.
Thank you. So,
Floor recognizes Senator Goes Ahead of the Arrow Creek District.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and members of the body. Right now, there's a landowner in Pryor where his water was diverted in the Sage Creek area in Pryor by a non-rancher. The flow of the natural flow was diverted to his land. So the landowner came to the Crow tribe, then went to BIA. BIA said, we can't do nothing for you. Crow tribe said, we can't do nothing for you. See, that's a valid concern of ours. Okay, when you, without a water code, when you start mining, you know, some of those little tributaries in the Henry Creek, Squirrel Creek and all that, and if you divert that and then, well, the value of the person's, the lottee in Sage Creek and Pryor, the south boundary there, the value of his land went down because it was diverted. And he can't do nothing about it. If that happens, see, we're talking about value of the land, and if there's no water code for their protection, what's going to happen? That is a legitimate concern with what the speaker is bringing forward. That's our concern. So I just want to leave that. Thank you.
So continuing with the proposed agreement with respect to the Workforce Protection Act, which provides for minimum wages, we've agreed to obligate Cloud Peak to pay the Crow workforce at Big Meadow the same wage scale that we pay all our other workers in the Powder River Basin, including Wyoming. So on the same pay scale. In Spring Creek Mine, wages range from roughly $20 to $29 an hour. And when you roll in benefits, insurance for health, 401k savings plans and company matches, all of that, the average worker at Spring Creek Mine earns $94,000 per year. So we're committing that same scale. We do not want to, we're committing in writing, we will not treat Crow tribal employees any differently than we treat our other employees. Except for the fact I think you'll do even better, because my understanding is being tribal members on the reservation earning a wage will not be subject to state income tax. So somebody at Spring Creek making the same money is going to take home less money than a big metal worker would working on the reservation. So that's a positive story. The Federal Family Medical Leave Act provides for time off. We've agreed to expand that to be sensitive to pro-cultural issues. We plan to put together a cultural committee of pro employees to help guide us on what those cultural events and occasions might be. We hope to learn a lot and become smarter about the tribe and your culture and religion as we go on, but we're never going to be as smart as you are. So we need you to tell us what is a bona fide cultural and religious event, and we'll provide time off for that under the Federal Medical Leave Act. We'll also provide time off for Pro Fair. We'll make that a holiday, that Monday after Pro Fair. We'll schedule a line around it to make sure that people can take time off. We've also identified Native Days as something to be sensitive to, although we're not making it a holiday as with Pro Fair. So we understand there will be things we need to be sensitive to and know about, and we're going to reach out to the Crow employees, the Crow tribe, to let us know what those things are. We provided for that in the agreement. As I said earlier, as soon as we sign, I know that other folks at Cloud Peak are anxious to get together with counterparts at the Crow tribe to start discussing what a training program would look like, how that would be unveiled and grow over time. Obviously, we're not going to hire 100 people next week, but we need to have 100 people ready to go by the time we start mining in 5 years. And we're not going to hire 100 people 2 weeks before. So we need to have a steady growth in employees and training to be ready for that day. We'll use our existing mines to do training. We're going to use our existing employees to provide advice and to take on leadership and mentoring roles. And beyond that, getting into the specifics, again, we're anxious to sit down and start talking about that. We're looking at about 80 to 100 jobs if we mine 5 million tons a year at the Upper Youngs Creek area, which is what we're thinking first. If that's what we do and that's all we ever do, then we're talking 80 to 100 jobs. If we ultimately exercise leases in all 3 areas and we're mining 30 million tons a year, we could easily be talking 400 employees or more. So that's in there. That's it. I can tell you that there's a lot of money involved in this deal, again, I will stress time is of the essence of any coal mine. We're currently looking at how all those different mining areas will fit together. Youngs Creek, Spring Creek, Decker, Big Meadow. We're planning all that, and so we very much like to know that Big Meadow can be part of the complex that we see growing into the future. And look forward to answering any more questions and addressing any additional concerns. So thank you again for your time.
All right, Senators, do we have any more questions or comments? Floor recognizes Senator Pretty Pink of the Black Lodge District.
A question was just brought up to me, and can we provide the training here at Little Bighorn College?
Absolutely.
And bring the money and train all our students there.
Yeah, absolutely. We're thinking that's all part of the discussion we have to have. But we are very much focused on Little Bighorn College as a place for training. But we also want to use our mines down in Gillette. I mean, if there's a welding shop down at one of the Gillette mines, maybe we do some training here, but we can get on-the-job training down there. We also recognize moving people to Gillette, and we got this from talking to our current employees. It might be nice to have a senior pro mentor around to sort of help them, feel more at home and navigate if we ask them to live in Gillette for some time to go through some training. All those things we need to work out. And again, our thoughts are coming from comments we hear from our employees.
Okay, floor now recognizes Senator Stewart of the Black Lodge District.
Mr. Speaker, Secretary, members, Vice Secretary, and guests. A question from the gallery that we have landowners here. We want to set up a natural resource meeting and possibly sit down with you, Todd, whoever, maybe John, or we want to start visiting that. So that's something that we can do in the near future. Maybe we can start looking at our schedules and then go from there.
Sure, I think that's a good idea. Again, our hope would be that this is an agreement that could be approved and signed, and the very first thing we'd want to do is sit down with landowners and get going on the exploration agreement. Absolutely.
All right, so that's your conclusion now? Any more questions, comments, senators? If not, Kenny, if you can get the screen raised up. We're wanting to take a quick photo here to show that, that we're still in discussion with you. To put out any rumors that we're not working on this deal or we're against this deal or anything like that. We want to eliminate those, the false rumors. So we're going to ask that all the senators, if you come up, we'll come up to the front, we'll take a picture with Todd, Vice Secretary. Come on up. We'll take a group picture. And this is to show the people that we are still working on this deal. It's not a dead deal. So the rumor that it's a dead deal is a lie. Where's AJ?
Yep, he's gone for lunch, he said. Yep. Gone for lunch. Hey, can you take my picture and put it on Facebook?
You can.
Who's supposed to say smile?
Let's talk.
Got everybody in there?
There, no one.
Hey, there, don't say that. Not serious, you're taking that press bed, just keep it taking. Right now.
Ten o'clock. We'll have judicial come in tomorrow for the report. I think we've had, we've gone straight through lunch today, so I think we've done enough for today. So we'll eat lunch and then break for the day and come back tomorrow at 10 o'clock, senators. We'll continue on with judicial branch with their report. All right, senators, Vice Secretary wants to meet with us in his office or in my office in the back.